Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Hema Murty, a PhD engineer and advanced yoga therapist and fitness coach who helps women over 50 resolve chronic pain and reclaim daily function. So we'll explore with her how long it takes to return to normal functionality, where to start a fitness program after 50, and why spiritual personal training is different from traditional gym coaching. Welcome to the show, Dr. Hema.
Thank you so much, Ajay. It's great to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Welcome to the show once again, Dr. Hema. So, I want to understand from you first a bit about your, journey, a bit about your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking me. I am an engineer. I have a PhD in aerospace engineering. I still do engineering. And the basic thing is that as I was going through the engineering work and program and graduate work, I noticed that I needed to work out my body to be more productive in my engineering work, just to be productive during the day. So I started doing some running, and then I found out that maybe my body wasn't so equipped for doing all the things I wanted to do. And then I started to figure out how to work out and how to eat properly and all the things. Soon I had some knee issues with the running. That's a no-brainer. But at the time I was doing it, nobody understood that specifically. So then I started looking at experts to solve the problem, which is what you would normally do. You would call a physiotherapist, or first you go to your doctor, say send you to a physiotherapist, or a massage therapist, registered massage therapist, or a chiropractor. So I was going through a bunch of experts, and no one had the full solution. And at the time, even personal trainers didn't have rehab training, what we call now in 2026, where it's a whole field of rehab training, but no one really had that knowledge base. So I started figuring this out myself. And then with time, I also noticed that I could help other people. And so I started helping people who came to me. Oh, I also have that. Let me figure out, tell me how to solve this problem, this pain issues and knees, back, whatever it was. And I started just helping other people. And so I said, well, why not just do this also, help more women, because women were the ones that were underserved in the fitness industry at the time. This was, in the 90s. 1990s. And I thought, okay, well, that's the population, the demographic that I will just cater to, because if they're underserved in the public domain, then certainly I can help them and get them back on their feet. And that demographic turned out to be also the ones that do the most, like they're serving other people, they're helping other people the most in their families, so and then their community. So then I said, okay, well, this is the demographic that really needs to be served, because they are helping other people and they are not taking care of themselves. That's the bottom line. They're the ones that look after themselves the least. So they need to know how to look after themselves, solve their pain issues, and figure out, how to serve their world better. So that's how this all came about.
Absolutely. So how is it that you are helping this particular age group of women? And just tell us a bit about your spiritual training that you talk about, so that spiritual personal training that you talk about, so that people can also understand that part.
Yeah, that's a very unique perspective I have. So thanks for asking about that. Is I was always into the Indian philosophy from my mother, and she, from childhood, she taught me all the things we needed to know to what Indians normally in India would take for granted. But kind of being in North America, it wasn't automatic, right? So she taught me from childhood all the things that people normally know. And so I had this spiritual bent of mind, and how, to see how to involve spirituality in your daily life. I think in India, you take that for granted that almost all people in India usually have that personality, that bent of mind at some level of their personality. And so I developed this kind of thinking about, the body, mind, and how your thoughts can create answers to questions you have. Like if you just think about things and not just logically, but try to introduce some intuition into it, then you can get better solutions. So the body mind complex, is something that Indian philosophy always promotes through its yoga tradition, is now part of my training personality. So to answer directly to your question, when I meet a client for the first time and they have pain issues, I don't just look at the physical body. I also look at their mental makeup, their what they have been doing, how is their full package, not only just sleep, nutrition, stress management, hydration, working out, and all those things, which people normally in the West always look at first. But also I was also thinking about what is it that maybe they're thinking, what thought process are they having? Are they having a specific stressor in their lives? Is their work environment kind of not conducive to their well-being? Are they creating this stress so that it shows up in the body at some point as pain? And that's a really, really deep question. But, on probing, just having this discovery call is how I start all of my sessions out. People have a free discovery call with me for 15 minutes. And in that time, I can figure out where this pain is coming from. And if it's a stressor, if it's a mental stress program issue, then I try to address that through some, kind of, maybe I wouldn't call it a formal meditation as such, but just thinking about it, doing some writing, answering some questions, and just talking to me about what their issues are. On top of that, of course, I don't neglect the body. I try to do some assessments through running their body through some postures and exercise movements, to the point where I see where the issues are, what is really the trigger for the pain. Sometimes the pain shows up in your back, but it's actually your foot. Somehow foot spacing or foot kind of gait is a problem. And the body it should be taken as an integrated whole. So that's also an Indian philosophy concept, is that the whole human being is an integrated whole. You can't piecemeal and say, if you've got a back problem, solve the back problem. No, that's just not right, because it's going to reappear if that back is not the issue. And in most of my clients, that's actually the case. The back pain may show up because they actually have a shoulder issue. And so you trace it back to where the pain originated from, solve that. And sometimes it's the sleep, it's the hydration, it's the nutrition. So you have to look at the whole thing, take a map of the whole person, and then also introduce some intuition, like what is the vibe this person is giving you? Is there a stressor in their life? Is there a human being, another human being in their life that they're feeling stressed about? And that's just coming out like this. Is their neck being tight when they talk to that person? And so that's causing some back pain. So that's what I mean by spiritual focus. It's not just one thing, it's the whole thing. And it's also their personal spiritual being. Who are they being? Are they being something that's not conducive to their health? Sometimes we try to be something that we're not. Let's take an example, and just to finish up the answer completely to that question is, sometimes a lot of women are forced to be something that they're not. For example, the pressure on them to be to achieve something, let's say in the career world. And maybe that's just not what they're feeling, but they feel that the outside world expects them to be. So now there's this disconnect. So in Indian philosophy, a disconnect in the thoughts and emotions creates physical pain, mental pain. It's the origin of all pain of human beings, is the disconnect between what you want and what you think you should be. And that's where a lot of women get stuck. Now, through just to answer to that, just to say, I'm not going to, say, okay, quit your job and all that. That's just not the answer. You got to meet them halfway. You got to kind of meet yourself at a point where you can sustain life without pain, right? So that's where I lead them to. What other things can you move sideways? There's a lot of options, but sometimes we get stuck into thinking, no, I've got to have the CEO job on the top floor of that multinational company, or I'm nothing. So I mean, saying it like that, it's obvious to everyone that no, that can't be 0 and 100. There's a in between that there should be happy with. But like, we're looking at them from the outside, but if you're in their body, you're thinking, yeah, I got to be 100, I got to be 110, and that's maybe not what their body mind is accepting as a happy place. So that's how I do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want you to help us understand, how should women over 50 look at pain? Do you want them to think it is something that is going to be there, or something that can be, removed easily? You talk about, that deeply rooted myths about aging, pain, and what's possible for women over 50, and to offer a more accurate, empowering framework. Within this whole aspect, how do you want women over 50 to understand their pain?
Yeah, well, the first thing is there. Well, let's start at the basics. There is physical pain, so we start there. So, what in your body is preventing you from carrying out the activities you want to do? So, where is the pain arising? And it could be different for each. So, I have to do a specific case study depending upon, is it when you're walking? Is it when you're sitting at your desk? So we do a specific case study. It's individualized. So I've got to emphasize that there's no one size fits all when it comes to pain. So the pain trigger can be different depending upon the person. So each person has to see where their pain is showing up in their day. What is causing them to stop and say, I've got this, and I've got to go to a doctor or a professional to see where this is coming from. So that's number one. Number two is through a physical assessment. If you want to just stay at the physical and not kind of delve into where their thought process. If you just want to stay comfortable, I have a physical pain, I want a physical solution, we can do that too. There's something called functional movement assessment. That's what I do. I put them through about 7 movements, which tells me in a summary which muscle is not firing or which set of muscles is not firing. And then I create a program for them that they do over the course of 3 months. And in all my clients, I've seen the pain go away actually within a week, but I want to make sure it doesn't arise again from some other source that maybe we haven't looked at, maybe we haven't considered. So just to make sure that pain situation doesn't arise or doesn't get triggered again, they go through a 3-month program minimum, and then we solve the physical problem. Now, during that 3 months, though, because 3 months is a significant amount of time for a human being to be moving, during that 3 months, if that trigger arises again and we've solved the physical problem, then I know, what is your life like? And during that period of time also, we also review their nutrition plan, like what are they doing for their protein and energy sources, what is their makeup, what are their macros, what's the jargon that we would use in a nutrition coaching program, and try to coach them to maybe there's a time issue where they're not able to eat properly. So let's solve that. Let's look at the hydration. Let's look at the stress management, and let's look at the sleep quality that they have. So putting all of those together in a 3-month period, they should be pain-free in air quotes. And I say that in air quotes, quotation marks, because maybe there is a structural problem for which personal training is not the solution. Maybe there is a medical issue. Maybe they were born with some kind of a bone issue, in which case that's not my purview. So technically, I'm a personal trainer. I'm a rehab trainer in the fitness industry world. I have an engineering mindset. So I look at it as a systems engineering problem, like a human body is a system engineering problem. So if it's beyond the mindset and the human body and the functional training and all the muscles are working fine, then if there's a bone problem, then I let them know that. But at the end of that 3 months, at least we will have sorted out some other issues that may have contributed to it. And then they're left with maybe a bone issue that they would need to see, someone like a medical professional that's involved with bone issues. Maybe it's a chiropractic adjustment, maybe something else. But basically in that length of time, they have understood their pain source, and also the fact that they don't have to live with it. And a lot of the times I haven't had one client yet where I haven't solved the pain problem. So, touch wood on that, but all of the category of clients, hundreds of clients later, I've been doing this for over 20 years, the fitness portion of it, I have been doing for over 20 years, and I haven't seen one that I haven't solved yet, one case that I haven't solved yet. But if that happens, then I know that we would have to refer them to someone who deals with whatever it is that's causing it, because there are other places that could happen, which I maybe not in my purview. But all the cases I have looked at so far, women over 50, they come to me with some pain, and I've been able to figure out where this issue is coming from, and we solve it. Now, it could recur in another location, or that pain could come with a different format, and we look at it again at that time.
Right, right. So what is the best way for women over 50 to get started assessing their pain and then taking the right remedial measures, whether any medical thing is needed or not? Because it's all about the perception, I guess, because since long people have been telling it happens at this age, and then people start thinking that yes, it needs happen. How do you want women over 50 to get started and assessing everything in this backdrop?
Yeah, I love this question because this is something that I am fighting. There is no pain comes at age X, whatever X is. There's no such thing that I have seen. All pain can be monitored and addressed. Now, of course, if people are going to say, yes, at a certain age, the bone on bone is going to start rubbing, of course I'm going to have pain. But then you just modify your activity. Don't expect to, if you've never run a marathon, don't say at 80 that I'm going to start, because the bone on bone is not prepared for that friction. But you can certainly walk around the block. And if that's causing issues, then we need to start talking about what else we can do to lubricate. So to answer to the question, what do you do first? Well, you can see me, and then I can assess where that pain is. So all people who see me always have a free consultation with me for 15 minutes, so I can see whether this is something that I can help them with. And then at that point, I can see their physical assessment that I do. It's called a functional movement screen. I will do that. We set up a time to do that. We go through it through Zoom. I work totally online. And then I also look during that time at their nutrition component. So because sometimes it could just be that you're not getting enough protein. And then there are general advisements on macros, which is basically your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fats. But they may not be a one size fits all. Maybe your requirements, because you're stressed, you actually might need some more healthy fats in your diet that could combat stress. So those kinds of things come up. So we have to look at the nutrition also. We look at sleep quality, hydration, and also their stress management and how they're managing stress, because everybody has stress. So we go from there. So once I have the free discovery call with them, I usually know whether I can solve this or not and how I would go about doing it. What is the rehab program that I would put them through? And if they can do these movement patterns that will reset the muscles, fire muscles that are not firing, which is causing the pain. Pain is caused by a sleepy muscle in most cases, if it's not bone. If it's a muscular pain problem, like I have a backache, usually backache is because some of your muscles are lazy, they haven't been activated. So through the functional screen that I do with the 7 motions through the functional screen system, I can figure out which muscle is lazy, is not firing, has not fired in a long time, and I slowly get them to wake up. So if all the muscles are active, you usually don't have pain. If some of the muscles are not activated, that's when pain occurs in a muscular sense. No, we're not talking bone here. So that's what I do. And then once we get that physical pain diminishes, then I have clients who are high profile CEOs or presidents of companies. And of course, for them, it's the neck vice, because this is where they hold all their stress. So then we start looking at stress mitigation methodologies, how they can do some breathing before going into a hard meeting. I teach them how to do that. I teach them how to do some maybe writing therapy to get their stress out. Anger is one of the biggest causes of neck pain and neck strain and shoulder strain, because the neck feeds into the shoulder and upper back. So once I get them into that program of doing these regular activities, then at the end of usually a month or so, they have released some of it. Some of them call me a magician, but it's actually just all of the science. And also I throw in some intuition. Sometimes I can tell that they are married to their pain. that they somehow have thought that the pain is part of their persona, because after 50, your persona is basically kind of cast, right? It's very hard to change who you think you are. And so if they think I'm a person who has back pain, I have it all the time, I have hip pain all the time, if that's how you associate, then I have to unplug you from the pain and say that pain came to you because a muscle didn't fire, not because that's part of your personality. And it's not aging. It just means that some of the muscles during the course of time haven't fired, because none of us are taught how to work out properly, right? There's all these generalized prescriptions on the internet, and they don't work really. You have to look at the person, and you have to look, how many hours in a day do you have? The other day somebody said, I'm going to go out running. Should I go out running? No, running is not a workout. Running is a sport. It's a very demanding, high impact thing. Unless you're training for the Olympics since you're 8 years old or 10 years old, your body is going to take on way too much stress. The better thing is to start by walking around the block a couple of times, increase it a little by little. Then your body creates some stamina. Then you can start doing some lightweight training, also with a trainer. Don't just pick up some weights and look at the internet. That could be bad for you, because I don't know what your body is doing, like what is not working or what is working. So if you do an assessment with someone like me, you can figure out what your workout should be and where you might need to strengthen. From that, you can get the perfect workout for you. And then you can start building some muscle. Muscle is extremely important to fend off pain. And as you age, some of the people who are, like, for example, 80-year-old and they're, women in their 80s are very strong because they've been doing this since they were 30, or even maybe they started when they were 50. I also started as a graduate student, later adult. I didn't do it when I was a child, but I started weight training just to get rid of the stress and to combat the pain that I was getting from running. So my knees were not ready for the running. So I had to kind of strengthen the muscles around the knee. And that's how I got rid of my knee pain. But nobody told me that. None of the professionals told me that. I figured this out. So similarly with other people, they don't have to identify themselves with pain. We can strengthen, we can get your nutrition on track, we can get your stress down, and you can live a pain-free life for most part.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much to learn about all this, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you. What's the best way for them to do so?
My website is the best way. It's getshanti.com. That's get, G-E-E-T, and Shanti is SHANTI.com.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.